My sister dumped her trading company boyfriend and stole my fiancé from me. It's because she found out my fiancé was working in a hospital.
Thanks for handing over the doctor's boyfriend.
My sister unabashedly brags about marrying my ex-boyfriend. But she's got one thing wrong. My ex-boyfriend is not a doctor at all. When I tell her the truth, what kind of face will she make? My name is Alice. I have a younger sister named Anna who is 1 year younger than me. Anna is not on bad terms with me. But since she was young, she's always competed with me. She's not satisfied unless she's superior in whatever she does.
Sis, did you get your test back today?
Yeah, I just got my math test back.
Let me see. Oh, as expected, I did better this time too.
Knowing she scored higher on the test, she would aggressively show off to our parents. Often, our parents would praise Anna, who is more appealing than I, who remains silent. When we got to junior high school, Anna joined the same badminton team as me.
Sis, let's have a match.
With her victory over me, who was a senior by 1 year, Anna started getting attention in the team. Whether at school or home, it was always my sister who was fussed over by others. Whenever I tried to do something, she would do the same and draw even more attention than me. But still, I didn't dislike my sister. I thought her competitive spirit was cute, and it wasn't bad to see her shine. But now I realize that my attitude must have seemed arrogant to her. Anna began to harbor something like hostility toward me. I was pretty good at both academics and sports, but I'm not the type to show it off like Anna. So I didn't stand out much at school. On the other hand, Anna was always the center of attention in class, and often received confessions from boys.
You know, a boy from your class confessed his feelings for me too. Despite being closer to you, he chose me, which means I'm more attractive, right?
Anna probably thought she could establish her superiority over me by being popular with boys. She behaved suggestively towards noticeable older boys and started dating several of them. Occasionally, she would bring her boyfriends home as if to show off to me.
Sorry for showing off, sis.
Anna was very affectionate with her boyfriends at home as if to show off to me. However, I'm the type who prefers to date one person for a long time. So I didn't particularly envy my sister, who frequently changed boyfriends. Noticing this, Anna began to brag more about the quality of her boyfriends than the number.
Sis, my current boyfriend is a student at K University. I also got a confession from a guy at W University, so I had a hard time deciding.
Even during her university days, Anna dated several boyfriends. After graduating and getting a job, she began to brag about her boyfriends' workplaces instead of their educational backgrounds.
Sis, my current boyfriend works at a listed company. From now on, a man who can work is the best, isn't he?
Eventually, she said, I have someone I want to marry, and introduced her boyfriend to the family.
His name is Jacob. He's an elite working at a trading company. He said it's okay for me to quit my job and be a homemaker after we get married.
Jacob, 1 year older than Anna, seemed to have a calm personality, listening to Anna's talk with a smile.
I'm sorry that I'm going to get married before you, sis. If I wait for your wedding, I might become a grandma.
Hearing this, our mom asked in surprise.
Oh? Didn't Alice also have a boyfriend she was dating?
Yeah. I hadn't told Anna because I didn't want her to compete, but actually, I also have a boyfriend I plan to marry. Upon hearing this, Anna began to ask in detail, who is he? Do you have a photo? What does he do? How much is his annual income? This is exactly why I didn't want to tell Anna. Seeing me hesitating, my sister suggested a double date.
Let's go out for dinner with Jacob and me. And you and your boyfriend. That would be okay, right?
I wasn't very eager, but if I agreed this time, my sister would be satisfied. So, I asked my boyfriend Mike to join the double date. On the day of the double date, Anna asked Mike as soon as she met him.
Where do you work, Mike? My boyfriend works at a trading company.
Me? I work at a hospital.
What? A hospital?
The moment Mike mentioned he worked at a hospital, Anna's face changed color.
Why didn't you tell me your boyfriend is a doctor? I would have preferred a doctor boyfriend than a businessman.
With that, Anna began questioning Mike, not even waiting for my response.
Mike, which university did you graduate from?
Well, it's a specialized field, so I'd rather keep the name of the school to myself.
You're so modest. Were your parents wealthy from the beginning?
My income now is nowhere close to what my dad makes.
Your father must have been an excellent man too.
Ignoring her own boyfriend, Anna was talking nonstop with Mike. As Anna and Mike chatted away, Jacob and I slowly enjoyed our drinks and had a casual conversation. If it weren't a mature and calm man like him, Jacob would have likely shouted at Anna and Mike. Only a person as kind as him could handle being Anna's boyfriend. But with this, Anna should be satisfied. I had even changed our planned movie date to the last day of the following week for this double date. For the next date, I will listen what Mike want to do. However, the following week, he suddenly called to cancel.
Alice, about tomorrow's date. I can't make it because of work.
Really? I'm sorry, I made you reschedule because of me. With no choice, we decided to spend the weekend separately. With my sudden free time, I thought I might as well go to the movie. As I was heading to the movie theater alone, I heard a voice calling me from behind.
Alice.
I turned around, and there was Anna's boyfriend. Oh, Jacob. Are you also here for this movie? What a coincidence.
Anna suddenly had to work and canceled our date.
So we're in the same situation. I was supposed to come here with my boyfriend, but he had to cancel because of a sudden work commitment. Jacob said he had heard about this movie through Anna and had become interested in it. Did Anna also know about this movie? I had a bad feeling. With anxiety gnawing at me, I entered the movie theater, only to regret that my premonitions were right. Because there, I saw Anna and Mike arm in arm, looking like they were having a good time. Unable to hide my confusion, I approached my sister. Anna, Mike, what on earth is going on? Contrasting with Mike, who looked awkward, Anna appeared rather smug.
Can't you tell by looking? I've decided to date Mike.
Well, what are you talking about? Mike is my boyfriend.
Ex-boyfriend, right. Mike seems to have more fun with me than with you.
But Anna, you have Jacob. Looking at Jacob standing next to me, he seemed lost for words, perhaps shocked. Anna glanced at him and dismissively responded.
That's convenient. Jacob, let's break up. I've come to like Mike more than you.
At my sister's words, Jacob's eyes widened.
Are you serious?
Of course. Being a corporate wife isn't bad, but being a doctor's wife is far more attractive.
Anna's words were too abrupt and I couldn't process them. She snatched my boyfriend, even abruptly cutting off her own boyfriend. Even for me, this act of my sister's was too disgusting to overlook. Without any shame, Anna left arm in arm with Mike, disappearing from our sight. My sister, who had not a shred of ethics, was too much to bear. In response to her selfishness, I decided to distance myself from Anna. From then on, I stopped contacting Anna. The next time she called my cell phone was half a year later.
Oh, sis, I got married.
Married, you can't mean.
Yes, with Mike.
She had the nerve to report to me about her marriage to the boyfriend she had stolen from me. She continued happily.
You're such a plain woman like Alice. There's no way you could be Mike's wife, right? That's why I decided to take him away from you.
In this half year, I had completely gotten over Mike. After all, he was the kind of man who would swing toward my sister Anna while dating me. There's no lingering attachment to such a man. I replied calmly. Oh, you're married. So you're saying all the debts have been paid off?
Debt? What do you mean?
Mike didn't tell you anything? What had been bothering me during my relationship with Mike was his gambling addiction. Mike had a thing for sports betting and casino, and once he got into it, he couldn't stop. He had put off marrying me until he paid off his gambling debts.
I didn't know.
It seems that Mike hadn't told Anna about his gambling habit and debt. My sister was momentarily lost for words, but she seemed to quickly recover.
Well, Mike will be able to pay off his debts in no time. After all, he's a doctor. He should be earning more than Jacob, who works for a trading company. Thanks for giving up your doctor boyfriend, Alice.
I thought so, but it seems Anna misunderstood. I decided to tell my sister the truth. Mike isn't a doctor, he's unemployed.
What? But Mike himself said he works in a hospital.
Works in a hospital, huh? Well, he was working as a cleaner at the time. So he was going in and out of hospitals. It's all in how you say it.
That can't be true. But he came from a wealthy family and graduated from a good university, didn't he?
Mike graduated from a community college. So when you asked about his university, he couldn't give a clear answer, could he? Mike's family is just an ordinary businessman's family, as far as I know. It's true that your father-in-law probably earns more than part-time worker Mike. This time Anna was really speechless. That makes sense. She switched from Jacob to Mike because of the difference in salary. But the man she switched to was just a part-timer who can't compare to a trading company. After hanging up the phone with me, Anna seemed to have confronted Mike. He admitted that what he was going out for every day wasn't work, but casino. It doesn't stop there. He also confessed that he arbitrarily spent all her savings. Anna, in despair, turned to our parents to borrow money, but our parents have already retired and could handle anything. Next, Anna turned to her ex-boyfriend, Jacob. I, who was at Jacob's house, answered Anna's call.
Sis, why are you at Jacob's house?
I've been dating him since then. Upon hearing this, Anna erupted in rage like wildfire.
What? You're dating my ex? What kind of nerve do you have, you traitor?
Now it was my turn to snap. The one who started this mess was you. I only started dating Jacob because you dumped him. Stealing your sister's boyfriend is the real nerve. At my outburst, Jacob took over the call. He turned on the speaker so I could hear the conversation too. From the other side of the phone, I could hear Anna's begging voice.
Jacob, long time no see. How have you been?
Yeah, I'm finally feeling better. Alice cheered me up when I was down and couldn't get myself to do anything after you left me half a year ago.
So it's true that you're dating my sister. She's exploiting your vulnerability. She's so sneaky. Jacob, you're too good for her.
To Anna's rant, Jacob replied coldly.
Alice is an amazing woman. She's incomparable to you.
I could practically see my sister stomping her feet in frustration on the other end of the phone.
What? You're saying I'm inferior to my sister. You know, my sister has always been inferior to me in everything, from studies to sports.
If that's true, then it must mean that Alice's character is superior to yours.
No way. Ever since our student days, I've always been more popular. I had more boyfriends and friends than she ever did.
Quantity of boyfriends is not something to be proud of. It's far more admirable for a woman to engage deeply with one person rather than switching boyfriends often.
That's just an excuse for women who don't get attention. Jacob, you're just settling for my sister because I dumped you, right? I can come back to you if you want.
I refuse. I can't imagine marrying a woman who only sees her partner for their title.
It's very natural to know about the partner before going to get married, right?
What you wanted to know was just my annual income, right? Even if we were to get married, as soon as a better deal came along, you'd be out the door.
That's not true.
Who's talking? That's exactly what you did during our double date, wasn't it?
That time was.
At Anna's loss for words, Jacob said, looking at me.
Even when Alice found out her boyfriend had a debt, she didn't abandon him. She was trying to think about how to pay back the debt by the time of marriage, and how to cure his gambling addiction together. On top of that, when her boyfriend betrayed her so easily, she quietly stepped aside without uttering a word of resentment. Seeing her so different from you, I was drawn to her more and more.
No way. There's no way you chose my sister over me.
To me, the person who used to think about marrying you seems unimaginable. I'm so glad I realized it before marrying you.
Wait, you can't brag to your friends about marrying someone as plain as my sister, can you? If you're getting married, I'm the better.
Are you an idiot? I don't get married to show off to others. I'm marrying her because I want to spend my life with her. And the person I choose as my partner will never be you. It's Alice.
Jacob said that and hung up the phone. Then he turned to me.
Alice, it was like I've already proposed what I said earlier on phone, but let me ask you again. Will you marry me?
I gladly accepted Jacob's proposal. Yes, if you'll have me. My married life with Jacob afterward was smooth sailing. He told me I could quit my job if I wanted, but unlike Anna, I like to work. I chose to continue working because I enjoy my current job. When I was dating Mike, I was worried if he would help with the household chores if we both worked. But Jacob proactively does the housework, saying, "We're both working, after all." Now, I truly believe that marrying him was the right choice. On the other hand, Anna is apparently still with Mike, unable to break up. Mike's gambling addiction is as bad as ever. He occasionally works part-time, but he spends all his earnings on gambling the same day. Anna seems to be working day and night to earn living expenses for Mike's share. It's a life completely opposite of the married life she imagined. My sister, who was obsessed with having a better life than me. It seems that there's a world of difference between her and me now. However, all of this is my sister's own doing. Her current situation is a result of betraying me. The person who probably regrets this fact the most would be Anna herself.
Hey, T.
My name is not T.
What? Why are you talking like a school teacher? I want to drink tea. Bring it now.
You can at least do that much for yourself. My husband always orders me around, asking me to bring this or that. He wasn't always so lax, but now this is his style. I believe he works just fine outside, but he does nothing at home. He treats me like a maid. My name is Catherine. I'm a 34-year-old housewife with kids. My husband, Fred, and I are the same age. And our son, James, is in elementary school. We are a typical family that you can find anywhere. We live in an apartment now, and the old lady next door told me that we seem to be a close-knit family. But still, I have complaints about my husband. As I mentioned before, my husband orders me around to do everything. And even though my husband is a non-management employee at the company and can't stand up to his boss, he acts arrogant with me. A while ago when we had a fight, he hurled awful insults at me. Hey, can't you wash your own cup if you use it? Why are so many cups piling up on the table?
What? You do it? Why do I have to do it every time?
But I finished doing the dishes, and then you used them, didn't you? So, shouldn't you wash it yourself?
Don't you have any intention of serving your husband? Who do you think is supporting you?
Excuse me.
I'm providing for you, don't talk back to me. You're such a good-for-nothing lazy wife.
I'm the lazy one.
Yeah, that's right. You're always sleeping whenever you have time, aren't you? I bet you'll end up fat like a cow one day. Well, you're already a saggy old lady. If you get out of shape more, it's gonna be a turn-off.
That's horrible.
Shut up. You're worthless. You don't even have the right to fight back.
My husband would demean me in this way and smirk. Does he feel satisfied saying such cruel things? I wondered how he had changed from the kind person he used to be. Perhaps he used to just pretended to be a nice guy in front of me. I have a friend who works at the same company as my husband, and apparently, my husband is quiet at work. But this is how he is at home, and I felt like he was taking out his frustration on me. I wondered why I had to be his punching bag. Our son had heard our argument before and showed a sad expression. I felt bad for him. When I looked like I was about to cry, my son came to check on me later. And then he said to me,
"Mom, are you okay?"
"Yes, I'm okay. I'm sorry for scaring you. I shouldn't have raised my voice, either."
"No, it's okay. I'm on your side, Mom. I know you're doing your best, Mom."
Thank you. After that, it seemed like my husband quickly forgot about the fight we had. Then one day, he suddenly said he wanted to buy a house of our own. Perhaps it was because he was competitive with a colleague who had built a luxurious house. That colleague is already successful and holds a good position in the company. So, we decided to go see some model homes. Several housing manufacturers had gathered near our house and were holding a housing exhibition. My son was happy when he found out that he could get a prize there.
Oh, this house from A Construction is also quite nice. The floor plan is lovely.
Yes, it is. But isn't this one of the more expensive ones in the industry?
But the reputation is really good, right? They say it has good heat insulating material and can keep the house at the right temperature. With this, we wouldn't need to use too much electricity.
Well, that's true. The A Construction company had a good reputation on the internet as well. The house design was stylish, and the insulation was highly efficient, which would reduce our electricity bill. People who want to build stylish and functional homes seem to mostly rely on this place. My husband looked at other places as well, but he seemed to like the houses from A Construction the most. So, he declared that he would build a house there. I thought it would be better to think more carefully before deciding, but he was saying that he wanted to sign a contract as soon as possible. I'm opposed to making a decision so quickly. It's an expensive purchase after all.
It's fine, isn't it? I'm the one who's taking out the loan. I'm building a house here.
But
You don't need to be on a joint loan, just hand over a few tens of thousands to me each month.
what?
I want to make the house in my name, so I'm taking out the loan by myself. It would be embarrassing if my colleagues knew that I was taking money from my wife.
I see.
But it's an expensive house, so you should help out and pay me in cash every month.
I work from home, so I'm not a stay-at-home housewife. My husband, knowing full well that I also work, had the nerve to call me lazy the other day. I thought it was foolish of him to want to take out a loan on his own just to compete with his colleagues. He was elated when he made the contract, seemingly very happy. And he had contracted for a 35-year loan. I wondered if he wasn't worried about the fact that he'd probably be retired by then. So, astonishingly, he bought an expensive house because the construction worker said, "It's all right." I thought that those construction workers were just trying to sell an expensive house by saying that you can borrow tens of millions from the bank. After that, we waited for the house to be completed in our apartment. And finally, the house was completed. As expected, it was a beautiful and luxurious house. The day the new house was completed, my husband said he had something to talk about.
Come, sit down. I have something important to say. It's a good opportunity, so I've arranged for a new mom for our son. I'm divorcing the incompetent wife.
What?
James, you also want a young and beautiful mom, don't you? You don't need an aged mom, do you? I see. James is also happy with a new mom. Dad thinks so too.
My husband was enjoying himself alone. However, our son calmly said this.
Dad, don't you know?
Huh?
Today, Mom went to file for divorce. So you're already divorced.
What?
She was planning to divorce you once the house was finished. Mom said so.
What? What do you mean?
My husband seemed surprised at our son's words. His face had turned pale. Our son, wise beyond his years, continued to speak calmly and logically. I had always thought he was a smart boy, but I started to wonder if he was smarter than his father.
Mom already knew that Dad was having a strange conversation with a young woman on the internet, right? So, she was thinking about how to take revenge. It seems like the timing of the house's completion was good. Also, it seems that young woman is actually a scammer. Dad didn't notice. Maybe she approached Dad for money. You know, bad people like that deceive others for money, right?
What?
Actually, my husband had been obsessed with a chat lady for some time. Not only did he have inappropriate conversations with her, he also actually met with her. I think it's against the site's terms to actually meet. So, they must have decided to meet secretly. The reason I noticed this was because my husband didn't password protect his computer, and he left it logged in all the time. I got so furious that I decided to divorce this man. I don't need a husband like this anymore. And this woman is a scammer. I realized this when I saw a certain webpage. Her name was written there. It seems she approaches men and at first asks for things. Then, in the end, she asks for marriage funds and ultimately demands money. I'm sure my husband must have been told by this woman that she wanted to marry him. He's probably ecstatic thinking he can marry a young woman. I told my husband that I had noticed he was hooked on chat and that the woman he was dealing with was a scammer. My husband's face turned even more pale, looking like he's about to get sick. Well, that's why I was waiting until the house was completed. So, I'm not going to hand over money every month anymore. After all, we're already divorced, and we're strangers to each other, aren't we?
But wait, how did you manage the divorce papers? You didn't forge them, did you?
Oh, have you forgotten? You once confronted me with divorce papers. You were angry at me, and you threatened to divorce me if I ever defied you again. Those divorce papers you waved around to intimidate me, they were still at home.
What?
So, I filled them out and submitted them.
Wait, then what about the house loan? It's such an expensive house. It's going to be tough for me to pay for it all by myself every month.
Huh? But weren't you planning to divorce me and live with a new woman? Did you think I would continue to give you money even after we divorced?
Well, yeah.
This stupid husband surprisingly planned to continue to demand money from me, even after he remarried a younger woman. I wondered how far he would go to take advantage of me. Why would he think that I would continue to contribute money for the house even after our divorce? His thinking is so bizarre, it's beyond my comprehension. It's such a wild idea. It makes me wonder if he even has a brain. Why did I marry such a man? I felt miserable.
So that's why, from now on, Dad will be paying the loan all by himself. Ah, was it a 35-year loan? Then by the time you finish paying, you'll be an old man. Can you afford to pay until then?
My husband looked like he was about to cry after hearing what our son said. Tears were filling up his eyes. And then he turned to me and suddenly started to apologize.
Please, take back the divorce. I didn't know that woman was a scammer. Please stay with me. Please help me pay the loan.
Absolutely not. I refuse.
What? The monthly payments are going to be tough. It's absolutely impossible for me to pay it off by myself.
Then you should pay it. Aren't you happy the beautiful house is completed? Why don't you live in that big house by yourself?
I don't want to.
My husband was crying out loud, looking miserable. Our son was looking at him with a cold gaze. I feel sorry for our son, having such a man as his father. I bet he thinks his father is weak-minded and strange. Having lost all affection for my husband, I decided to kick him out of the house. After all, this apartment was bought by my father and is in my name. So, there should be no problem in kicking him out. So, I went to our bedroom first and organized his belongings. I stuffed his clothes and other things into a duffel bag. Then, I tossed that bag into the hallway. Next, I led him to the front door and locked him out. He was crying and shouting, his face all wet with tears.
Let me in. Please, let me in.
I'm not letting you in. This apartment is mine.
What? Then where am I supposed to go?
Huh? Why don't you live in that house? It's finally completed. How wonderful. You get to start a new life today.
But
my husband no longer has a family home to return to. His parents have already passed away and their house was demolished. So, he has no family home to go back to and his relatives are far away. But I had already spoken to those relatives. I told them about my husband's infidelity and that I would be filing for divorce when the house is completed. So, I doubt he would be able to rely on his distant relatives. He has a job, so I don't think he would be able to travel that far. He lives in Ohio, and his relatives are in California and Idaho. My husband was still shouting outside. I thought he would quiet down if I ignored him, but he didn't. Then, it seems an elderly man from the next room came out. The man looks quite intimidating, with a rough appearance. He could well be described as a grumpy old man. The old man scolded him, saying he would call the police if he made any more noise. Then, my husband disappeared somewhere. I guess he has gone to that newly built house. After that, I decided to live with my son. My work from home is going well, and we're not struggling to get by. My ex-husband used to say to me, "I'm supporting you," but I wasn't being supported. I contributed to the household expenses, and I paid for my own expenses. I realized that my ex-husband just wanted to act superior. Some time passed since then. One day, I went out for my son's extracurricular activities. He's taking swimming and gymnastics lessons. And when I returned after picking up my son, my ex-husband was standing in front of the apartment. He looked thinner and dirty.
Would you consider getting back together with me? I'm having a tough time.
What?
I'm barely making ends meet with the loan repayments, and I'm even struggling to afford food. I was also forced to quit my job.
You were fired.
Yeah.
Apparently, my ex-husband was harassing my friend. This friend is the one who works at the same company. She is a married woman with a child, but she looks much younger than her age. And her style is outstanding. She is pretty. She's been my friend since college, and she won a beauty contest. My husband was harassing her. He touched her body and didn't stop even though she didn't like it. It escalated, so my friend reported it to her boss and HR. I was surprised to hear this story from my friend because I had no idea. I felt really sorry that my ex-husband caused her trouble. So, my ex-husband was forced to quit his job. Well, I could say that it can't be helped because he brought it upon himself. It's natural, considering the wrong you've done. Hang in there.
What? I'm just getting by with a part-time job now. I might even have to give up my house.
So, why not give it up? Such a luxurious house doesn't suit you. Isn't a cheap apartment good enough?
What?
Dad, just hang in there. I'll be cheering for you. Well, bye-bye. I don't think I'll ever see you again.
James.
We quickly went back into the room. My ex-husband might have stayed outside for a while, but when I looked out after an hour, he was gone. It was cold outside with snow falling, so he probably went home. Since then, I haven't been in contact with my ex-husband. But according to the rumors I've heard, he seems to have had to give up his house. However, there's no way he could sell it for the same price he bought it for. I think he'll have to pay a certain amount. Well, it's a fitting end for him. When I apologized to my friend, she told me she wasn't angry at all. Instead, she said she was worried about my mental health for having lived with such a man. I do think I was frustrated every day when I was with my ex-husband. But I no longer have any involvement with my ex-husband, and I don't have any stress. From now on, I will work hard for my son and make sure he will not suffer. And I'd like to go out for a meal with my precious friend from time to time. Somehow, since my ex-husband left, I've been able to be more positive about various things.
She's 20 years younger than me, and she's pregnant, so let's get a divorce.
Suddenly, my husband brings his mistress to our home, and then he asks me for a divorce. Honestly, our marriage has been falling apart for a while now. I no longer love my husband who goes out without taking care of our children or doing any household chores. Okay, here's the divorce papers. I'm taking everyone except our oldest son. I hand over the divorce papers to my husband and say that to him. Then my husband says something shocking.
Huh? You can take our oldest son too.
I couldn't believe it. That's impossible because this child is... When I confronted him with the truth, my husband was dumbfounded and fell to his knees. I am Catherine, and I'm 51 years old. I'm a housewife. I got married to my husband, John, 14 years ago. Our meeting was through a mutual introduction. In the past, I worked at a web design company as a web designer, focused on my work, and haven't had any romance for many years. And my colleagues introduced me to him because they were worried about me. My husband was friendly and good at having conversations. Even though I hadn't been much into dating, the time I spent with my husband was fun, and I thought we could build a fun family if we got married. However, the journey to marriage was not easy. My husband was a divorcee and had a child. It seemed that his previous wife had left the house, leaving the child behind, and he said he was working while raising the child. When I consulted with my family and friends about it, they all told me it was definitely better not to marry him. "You'll struggle after marriage." Everyone would say the same thing to me. But for me, even this obstacle only ignited my feelings of love for John. I thought I had to support him, who was a single father. Since then, I have been meeting with my husband's eldest son, Alex, more frequently. "Alex, what are you going to play today?" "I'm not playing with you." "Then, do you want to eat something? I'll cook anything for you." "No." Alex didn't trust me at all. I wonder if it's because I have no experience in raising a child. When I felt anxious, my husband always comforted me.
"It's okay. Alex will understand someday. Thank you for taking my son so seriously."
I was happy to hear that, so I was okay even if I was rejected by my eldest son. I'll love him like my own child when we get married.
"I'm glad you love Alex and that I met you."
When I think about it now, I might have been conceited, thinking that I was mentally supporting my husband. And then, half a year into dating, I found out I was pregnant and we got married. My eldest daughter, Cherry, and my second son, Albert, were born the following year, and I became a mother of 3. Since I gave birth to 2 kids, I was swamped with childcare every single day. However, my husband didn't help me at all.
"Catherine, Albert is crying."
"Can you comfort him for a bit? I can't take my hands off right now."
"Me? No way. He wants his mother, doesn't he?"
My husband, who pushed my crying second son onto me while I was taking care of my eldest daughter, would just play around with his smartphone. My husband always came home late and was drunk. On his days off, he went out casually and came home in the evening, so there was no time for him to do any childcare or even any time for me to talk with my husband. And I didn't have time to sleep, taking care of the children every day. Stress just kept building up. "Can you help me a bit?"
"Huh? I'm tired from work. What's a person who's at home all day saying? Raising a child is a woman's job."
I couldn't believe it. If I knew he was like this, I wouldn't have married him. I felt deceived. But when I thought about my newborn children, I couldn't divorce easily. Taking care of my rebellious Albert and Cherry, who were in their terrible 2s, was really hard. Still, I tried desperately to become their mother. The relationship with Alex remained distant, and he hardly spoke to me. I woke him up in the morning and fed him to send him to elementary school, but we hardly had any conversation. I was too busy taking care of the younger children and didn't have the capacity to care about Alex. Several years later, when the eldest son became a junior high school student, he entered his rebellious phase. "Alex, have you finished your homework instead of reading comic books all the time?"
"Shut up."
"Shut up? I'm saying this for your own good, you know."
"That's why it's so annoying. Don't play the mother role."
This is what Alex would always spout and not listen to what I say. In the end, I decided to consult with my husband about Alex's behavior. "Could you try talking to Alex a bit? He's not studying, just playing all day, and he doesn't listen to anything I say. Is this because of his rebellious phase?"
"Isn't that because of the way you raised him? Because you neglected him so far, he doesn't listen, right?"
"What? I don't want to hear that from you, who didn't do any parenting and just played around."
"You think I was just playing around?"
John, enraged, stood up. "No, you're always out drinking. You never help me when I'm busy."
"I can't help it if I have social commitments. This is part of my job too. You're living off my salary. Don't act so arrogant."
I couldn't say anything to that. I quit my job because parenting was busy. My living expenses are solely the money my husband provides for me. He only gives me the bare minimum, so we're barely making a living. Of course, I don't have any money that I can use freely. That's why when it comes to money, I can't talk back to him. However, Alex's behavior is getting worse and worse, and there are days when he doesn't come home until late at night, even though he's in middle school. I thought he was going to become a delinquent or something at this rate. Despite my best efforts to persuade both Alex and my husband, they wouldn't listen. Before I knew it, I was fighting with my husband every day. And then the days when my husband didn't come home increase. This lifestyle continued for many years. I was past 50 and Alex was a senior in high school. I thought we would understand each other when his rebellious phase was over, but the reality doesn't go the way you wanted it to. Even now, he ignores me or only yells at me and verbally abuses me when I try to talk to him. We couldn't even have a decent conversation. My husband was coming home in the mornings more often, and our married life was collapsing. Then one day, something happened. My husband brought a young woman home. Who is this?
My girlfriend, who's 20 years younger than me, is pregnant. So please, let's get a divorce.
My husband started begging on his knees as he said that. To be honest, I wasn't surprised because I had noticed for a long time that my husband was having an affair. However, I couldn't believe that he brought her to this house where we have children. The woman he was having an affair with smiled at me. Nice to meet you. I'm Amy. I was amazed that she could smile knowing that it was an affair. She is said to be 35 years old, 20 years younger than my husband. She's wearing a revealing outfit and heavy makeup. It's a big difference from me, who's starting to show wrinkles.
I honestly don't see you as a woman anymore, and I want to take responsibility for her child, so please, let's get a divorce.
I had reached the limit of my patience with these selfish people. I have been patient for the sake of our children and our life, but now I have no love left for my husband. I have been struggling all this time while he had been playing around. I decided to take revenge on my husband to make him realize the hardships I went through. To his unusual plea, I nodded, agreeing to his proposal. Okay, fine.
Are you okay with that?
My husband was surprised and raised his voice in disbelief, perhaps because I had agreed too easily. Of course. Here's the divorce papers. I'll take everyone with me except for Alex. When I said that, my husband frowned suspiciously.
What? Take Alex with you too.
I couldn't believe what my husband was saying. That's impossible because Alex is your son, right? I'm not related by blood with him, and he and I don't get along.
I don't care about that. You said you would love him as your real son.
Yes, that's right. I've always treated him as if he was my real family. I never distinguished between my biological and non-biological children. I always cared for them in my own way.
Then take responsibility until the end.
John's words prompted his mistress to speak. Yes, I can't be a mother to a high school student. You should take care of him since you're much older. Right now, Alex is home and probably can hear this conversation. He never warmed up to me due to his rebellious phase, but this is really too much for him and I felt bad for him. He is your son you had with your ex-wife. Take responsibility and look after him.
What? You're heartless.
Who's heartless here? You've never taken part in raising our kids, so who are you to say that? If you're not going to take care of him, I won't divorce you. John scratches his head in annoyance. He then lets out a heavy sigh.
All right. I'll take care of Alex.
What? I can't be a mother to your son.
Sorry, but please, bear with him for a few more years.
What? Well, it can't be helped then. I'll forgive you if you buy me a new bag from my favorite brand. John laughs foolishly and agrees to Amy. With the two of them looking as if they are about to start being lovey-dovey right there, I pull out the divorce papers. Can you sign these quickly? I'll go file them tomorrow.
All right. You're such an impatient woman.
While complaining, John signs the paper. I received the signed divorce papers and securely put them into my bag.
By the way, will you be okay after the divorce? You don't have a job or a place to live. I feel sorry for the kids.
John smirks as he says that. He probably thinks I'm just a housewife with no savings. Thanks for worrying, but I have a job, so I'll be fine.
Huh? You started working? But it's part-time work, isn't it? You won't be able to make ends meet with such a small salary.
It's not part-time. I started my old job in web design. As long as I have a computer, I can work from home. Last month, I made over $2,500, so I won't have any problems living.
Huh.
John seems frustrated. I had used my savings from when I worked years ago to buy a computer and started working as a web designer from home. Having had the experience, I was able to get to work immediately and was saving for when I would eventually get a divorce. The reason I could hand over the divorce papers so easily was because I had prepared everything for this moment. Not knowing this, John, who thought he had the upper hand, I laughed at him. Anyway, are you guys going to be okay?
What do you mean?
Child support. I'll be receiving child support until Cherry and Albert become adults. John frowns. It's only natural that he would have to pay for his own children. Just because we're divorced, it doesn't mean he can abandon his parental responsibilities. Let's discuss the amount and make a contract through a lawyer later. It's for 2 kids, so I think it will be around $300 per month.
$300 per month? It's too much.
What are you talking about? Right now, our child is a middle schooler. It costs money for club activities, personal tutors, and so on. Child support isn't just food and utilities. If anything, it's not enough.
Does it really cost that much?
John had never been involved with the household finances, so he didn't know. Our children, Cherry and Albert, who are part of the athletics club, need quite a bit of money for shoes, uniforms, and practice gears. It also costs some money when they have games away from their school. Even with a monthly allowance of $200 per person, it wouldn't be enough. Oh yeah, your girlfriend already knows too, right? About what? I looked at his mistress and smiled. The compensation, right? You've been having an affair for years, so you'll have to pay for the damages. I'm not really sure until I consult with a lawyer, but it seems to be around $25,000, so be prepared. What? I didn't hear anything about that. I don't know anything about it. You think that because you're over 30 and you don't know, so you're excused from it? Besides, we have all the evidence, so playing dumb won't help. When my husband stopped coming home, I hired a detective agency to investigate about his affair. Since then, I've known that he was dating his mistress and even have photos of them together. There's no escaping now that all the evidence is gathered. Especially now that she's pregnant, there's no doubt he cheated, so there's no escaping. But she screamed with anger, unwilling to acknowledge the truth. I don't have that kind of money. I don't even have savings. I'm about to have a child. I don't care. If you can't afford it, why don't you ask your husband standing next to you to pay? Amy grabbed John's shoulder and shook him. You're going to pay, right?
I can only afford child support. You'll have to pay on your own.
Why? You're the one earning money. You should pay.
I spent everything on gifts for you. How much do you think I spent on those gifts I gave you?
What? You're seriously useless. I didn't hear anything about you not having money. The atmosphere between the two, who were so pleasant when they arrived, had turned sour, and I had to laugh. After all, she was probably after his money. Otherwise, she wouldn't have dated a man in his 50s. It's my husband's fault for laying a hand on another woman while still being married to me. However, if Amy continued the relationship knowing it was an affair, she's just as guilty. I wouldn't be satisfied unless she also paid me the amount I request for. First of all, I thought of marrying you because you promised not to make me suffer and to buy me whatever I wanted. I don't know anything about compensation. I won't pay. You can refuse if you want, but I'm going to consult a lawyer. Shall we meet in court? When I intentionally mentioned the word court, she stood up in a panic. No way! I don't want to marry such an old man and go into debt. Especially with a son who's going to college. I really don't want that. I'm leaving.
Wait!
Amy grabbed her bag and dashed out the door. John tried to stop her, but she shoved him aside and he ended up on the floor. It was a ridiculous sight. Oh, she ran away.
It's not, oh, because of you this happened.
John, now furious, got up. What? If you're going to hit me, I'll call the police.
You, acting so high and mighty, you'll be punished for ruining this marriage.
At John's words, I burst out laughing. Punished? Then you'll be punished for neglecting me and our family, won't you? John glared at me in silence, looking frustrated. He probably still doesn't fully understand the situation. So I decided to drop one more bomb on him. By the way, the tuition for our son, Alex's entrance fee, is due this week. Be careful.
What?
So I told you, Alex is going to be a university student soon, right? You'll need to pay the entrance fee to enroll him, so that's why I'm telling you to pay it. You're going to take care of Alex, right? Upon saying this, my husband was dumbfounded. He has been neglecting Alex for many years, so he probably has no idea about the school he will be attending or how much it will cost.
How much is it anyway?
It's a private university, so it's about $12,000.
12,000? There's no way I can afford that.
Well, that's the amount you pay in the first year. After that, I think it will cost around $10,000 each year for tuition fees and facility fees, so do your best.
You're joking, right?
I was surprised to learn that private university tuition fees are so high because I attended a public university and didn't know much about how it cost. John also attended a public university, so he probably never thought it would come to this.
Why did you let him enroll in such an expensive university?
It's not my fault. I told Alex to study, but he wouldn't listen, and you didn't do anything when I consulted with you.
Even so, to let him enroll in such a university without my consent? I won't accept this.
Then why don't you talk to him about it? Alex is the one who decided to go to that university. Upon saying this, John fell silent. Perhaps he doesn't know how to deal with Alex because he has neglected his parenting duties until now. I have no intention of worrying about the two of them. Well, we'll gather our things and leave. As I said this and stood up, John suddenly tried to hold me back.
Wait, let's try again.
What are you talking about?
No, I've reconsidered. I think it's better not to divorce for the sake of our children.
John sounded serious. However, his words about our children were all excuses. You just don't want to pay child support and division of property, do you? I don't want to. I can't live with you anymore.
Why not? I've broken up with Amy, and I won't cheat anymore, so let's try again.
Absolutely not. I can't imagine living with someone who doesn't take care of his children, plays around, and impregnates someone 20 years younger than him. It seems you've misunderstood something. I didn't agree to divorce because you said you wanted to.
Then why?
I've wanted to divorce you for a long time, but I couldn't because I didn't have the money. I've been working hard and saving up, so it's just the right time. Even if you hadn't said you wanted a divorce, I would have proposed it to you.
You're kidding.
John was speechless. Perhaps he thought he was loved by me. I'm not a saint who can love a man who has done such terrible things to me.
But the children would prefer to have both parents together. Divorce is bad for their education and for their mental health.
John said this. That's when Cherry and Albert, who had been listening to our conversation, burst out of their rooms.
I don't want to live with a father like him.
I can't either.
Cherry, Albert, how can you say such things to your father?
The children came to my side and glared at John.
Don't act like a father when you've never done anything before. It's really disgusting for a person like you to cheat on Mom all the time. I don't want to think of a person like you as my parent. It's much better to live just with Mom after divorce.
You guys?
John seemed more shocked than angry. He stood there with his mouth open in surprise. Don't underestimate them just because they're kids. They can see what adults do, and they definitely can judge right from wrong. You still think you're liked by your kids because you're their father?
But what I did was wrong, so forgive me. I'll do anything. I'll buy you anything you want, and I'll take you wherever you want to go.
We don't need such things. I don't even want to see you.
Upon hearing the children's words, John finally fell to his knees. Did he really think he could bribe and win over his children with things? If so, he is severely underestimating them. The kids knew I was struggling since they were in elementary school. They are considerate enough to worry about me. They will not forgive John easily. We gathered our things and left the house without saying a word to John, who was sitting down. In the end, I divorced John. I'm sure John is struggling with a division of property and child support. Apparently, he's being asked to pay child support to his mistress, who has also given birth to their child. If he continues to pay child support until the children are adults, he will have to keep paying even after retirement. He messed around with a younger girl because he preferred younger women, but he really did a stupid thing. And because he never did any housework before, his house is in a terrible state. Apparently, he can't even do laundry properly and is using the same wrinkled shirt over and over again, which is making him unpopular at work and in his neighborhood. His kids and mistress have left him. He has no one to rely on. He has no money to play around with, and I hear he's like a zombie. But that's none of my business anymore. And so, we started a new life. Cherry, Albert, you'll be late for middle school.
Okay.
Both of them put their bags on their shoulders and ran to the entrance. Alex, you need to leave soon too, or you'll be late.
Yeah, you're so noisy.
Alex, the eldest son, also dressed in a suit and headed for the entrance. The day I divorced my husband, when I was about to leave the house with my belongings, Alex was standing in the hallway. He must have been listening to our conversation all along. Unable to ignore him, I spoke to him. What do you want to do? After much deliberation, my eldest son decided to come with me. To be honest, if I paid for my eldest son's tuition, life would be tough from then on. But my eldest son is a victim too. He must have been devastated when his biological parents said they didn't want to take him in. His rough times during his student years were largely influenced by the environment back at home. A father who never comes home and is always out playing. And me, who couldn't pay attention to him because I was too busy taking care of the younger kids. When he needed a parent, Alex was always left alone. I couldn't just abandon him like that. When we arrived at the new apartment, Alex said that he was going to quit college.
You don't have to pay for my tuition. I'll earn it.
I was glad to hear my son's sentiment, but I honestly didn't think he could get a decent job as a high school graduate. So, I made a proposal to my son. Why don't you study programming?
Programming?
Yes, in this internet society, if you can do codes and programming, you won't have trouble finding a job. Study seriously for a year and try to get a job. Until then, I will provide all your expenses. With that, my son listened to me surprisingly and studied hard. In just 6 months, he was good enough to get a job, and this year, he was hired as a full-time employee. The children, in suit and uniforms, are making a fuss at the entrance.
Don't talk to Mom like that. It's rude.
Anyone who complains won't get a ride in the car.
Liar. Give us a ride.
Bro, don't get into an accident.
Cherry and Albert, who were previously afraid of Alex and didn't even talk to him, are now completely attached to him. And the 3 children who had finished putting on their shoes turned around and looked at me.
We're off.
All the children left the house after saying that. I never thought this day would come. I finally feel like I've become a family with Alex. I vowed once again in my heart to do my best for the happiness of my children from now on.
I am Catherine, a 30-year-old employee at a major life insurance company. I work in sales. My family consists of my husband, John, who is the same age as me. We were childhood friends. Our houses faced each other, so we always went to school and played together. We spent time together from preschool until the summer break of our first year of middle school. Back then, John was always a clumsy boy. He was part of a soccer team and had to go to school early every morning for practice, but he often forgot his lunchbox and homework. John's mother would ask me, "I'm sorry, but could you deliver my son's forgotten items? Your mom really has a hard time, doesn't she?" I was the one delivering John's forgotten items, but John never felt guilty. He would say, sorry, I just forgot because it's early in the morning. You really need to get it together." I scolded him many times, but he never improved. John's irresponsibility was in his nature. When we moved in our first year of middle school, everyone from his family came to see us off, but John overslept. He was fast asleep with his room locked. In the end, John and I parted ways without seeing each other. About 10 years later, we met again at an elementary school reunion. I was surprised to see John. As a child, he was unkempt with messy hair and careless attire. But now he was a handsome man wearing a sharp suit, his hair and beard well groomed. "Catherine, is that you? Do you remember me?" "Of course I remember you. How could I forget?" John had apparently spent his middle and high school years in our hometown, then moved to California for university. He told me that after graduation, he worked for the local ward office. I was really surprised at how much John had changed. At the drinking party, he was considerate of others, initiating orders, serving food for everyone. He took care of a drunken classmate, even going as far as buying them medicine. He was truly attentive. We reconnected, exchanged contact information with a few former classmates, and John was among them. After that, we went out a few times with friends, had meals, and our relationship with John was rekindled. After a while, we started going out for dinner or drinks after work, just the 2 of us. One day, about a year later, John told me he had broken up with his girlfriend at the time. I broke up with my girlfriend. Why? We had personality differences. There were some things I was unsure about from the start. On the way home that day, John said, "I think you're the one who understands me, Catherine. Would you consider dating me with marriage in mind? I think we can make it work." I brushed it off as drunken ramblings at the time, but later, John asked me for an answer to his confession. I was really surprised because I thought it was just drunken nonsense, and when I asked, was that not a joke? I wouldn't joke about something like that. So I told him I needed some time to think and decided to give him an answer later. I didn't have a boyfriend at the time, but if I were to date someone, I wanted it to be with the prospect of marriage. I figured that since John was a childhood friend who I knew all his strengths and weaknesses, and since I knew his family, we could make it work if we got married. So I agreed to date him. After we started dating, we immediately reported it to both our parents. When my parents saw John for the first time in a long time, they said, "I can't believe how grown up John is." John's parents said, "Catherine, you've become so beautiful," and welcomed me. Our relationship progressed smoothly, and we got married 2 years later. I was congratulated by everyone and told to be happy. I was truly a happy bride. Please continue to support me from now on. I will, and thank you in advance. However, my marriage life was at its happiest on that day. After getting married, I was shocked to discover John's lack of responsibility. Firstly, John didn't do any tidying up at all. He wouldn't clear the dishes after eating, and he would let the washing pile up. Not throwing trash into the trash can was a given, and of course, he didn't do any sorting at all. When I asked how he had lived alone, he said that his meals were either ready-made from convenience stores or supermarkets, or he ate out, so he didn't need to wash dishes. Furthermore, at the apartment he used to live in, it was okay to throw everything away as trash, except for recycle items like cans and bottles. Apparently, John had almost never sorted his trash. So I suggested, let's do it together, and try to teach John housework, but John said, "I'm busy and the person who can do it should do it." He refused, so I prepared several trash cans to make it easier to throw away trash, and I posted a list of what can and cannot be thrown in each one. But he ignored this and tossed everything in the trash. No matter how much I warned him, he brushed it off as a hassle. Moreover, John had a hard time waking up and was always oversleeping. Apparently, his ex-girlfriend used to live in the same apartment, and he used to give her a spare key to wake him up. Every morning, I desperately tried to wake up John, saying, "Wake up, you're going to be late." But he would cover himself with the bed and refuse to get up, saying, "Just 5 more minutes." In the end, he'd wake up just in time to avoid being late and would complain, "Why didn't you wake me up? I tried to wake you up, but you didn't get up." So every day we started the morning on a bad note. We split our living expenses with John paying the rent and utilities, and me covering food and other social expenses. But John often forgot to deposit money into the account for the automatic deductions. Therefore, the deductions didn't happen on the due date, and our electricity or gas was shut off multiple times. All he had to do was look at the bills, but he managed his own mail, so I never saw them. I would notice when services were stopped, panic, and end up contacting the electric and gas companies to ask for their payment details and make the payments. How many times this happened, I wonder. Please do something about your carelessness. We can't get by like this. Every time I said this and got angry, John would snap back. "There's nothing I can do. You know I'm forgetful, so cover for me." And we would end up fighting. About 2 years after we got married, the apartment we were living in was decided to be demolished due to aging, and we had to find a new place to live. We couldn't find a suitable property easily, so we decided to build a brand new single-family home. However, I set one condition at the time. That was to put the house in my name and for me to take out the mortgage. Although John could probably take out a loan with his income, we couldn't risk him forgetting to make the mortgage payments. Thinking this, I offered to take out the mortgage myself. My annual income was about the same as John's, so there was no particular problem, and I passed the pre-screening. I'm forgetful, so it would be a problem if that happened. He agreed to me taking out the mortgage and building the house in my name. In exchange for me paying the mortgage, he would pay half of the food and social expenses I had been covering until then. And so we built a single-family home in the suburbs. The house had a large yard where we could keep a dog, which was his wish. And it had an open-style kitchen, which was what I wanted. I really liked the house, which was filled with our wishes. And so I started working hard to repay the mortgage. I worked late into the night every day, and my days were filled with walking around for business. I also wanted a child, so I had to save money to have a child. I was also saving while paying the mortgage and trying hard to save. But he was different. When I showed him the specific amount of money it would take to raise a child and proposed a future life plan, he said, "We can't predict the future, we should just wing it," and didn't listen to me. Furthermore, around this time, he started saying, "You're paying the mortgage and saving, so you must be fine, right? I don't need to contribute to living expenses, do I? I've been paying the food and social expenses that you pushed onto me because you took out the mortgage, but I don't need to, do I? I want to buy what I want and go out like when I was single," and he almost stopped contributing to living expenses. In the end, I had to pay the utilities as well, and he started using all his earnings for his own spending money. He bought an expensive golf set and a large SUV, even though he rarely drove. I asked him several times to stop wasting money, but he ignored me. With this kind of thing piling up, my love for him gradually cooled. But I didn't think it was enough to divorce him yet. One day, I received a call from a mutual friend. "Lately, I've been hearing that your husband has often been seen in the nightlife district, always with a young girl." The person who told me this seemed concerned, asking, "Is everything okay?" At first, I thought maybe it's just that my husband is taking a barmaid out. However, I was told they were seen walking together in the daylight during a holiday. When I expressed my disbelief, my friend sent a photo claiming it was proof. It was a photo from a neighborhood fall festival where her children were enjoying some foods from a stall. Surprisingly, in the background, he was seen having a beer with a strange woman, appearing rather intimate and happy. What the hell is this? Unbelievable! I felt as though I would black out. The day when my friend had taken her kids to the fall festival, John had said he was going out for a golf meeting. I've been working hard every day, even on holidays, but John hasn't been contributing to household expenses, spending his time off playing golf, and hanging out with friends. And now he is fooling around with other women. I was shocked. But when I thought about reality, I still couldn't bring myself to divorce him. At the end of that year, my cousin was coming from afar after a long time, so I went home alone. John said he was busy with work and didn't accompany me. By this time, I hardly made eye contact with John or spoke to him. We had a completely cold relationship. In fact, we had a big fight over living expenses again on Christmas. During the fight, he told me I should never have married you, you nagging woman, and threw a divorce paper with his signature at me. I was upset, but I had a good time at home over New Year's and returned home on the 3rd of January. But another incident happened. I was surprised as soon as I entered the door. There were women's bright red high heels in the entrance, which were not mine. I thought maybe there were guests and went into the living room, but no one was there. I thought it was strange, but I went to the bedroom to put my luggage. "Who are you?" I couldn't help but scream. There was a strange woman in pajamas lying in my bed. She woke up in response to my voice. "Huh? Who are you?" she said. "Who the hell are you? What are you doing here?" To my question, the woman glared back at me and said, "Who are you?" But then it hit me. This was the woman in the photo I had received from my friend. "This is my house, you know." "Huh? This is my John's house. Are you a thief?" she replied with such a preposterous claim. I was about to ask where my husband had gone when the bedroom door opened and my husband walked in. "Oh, why are you here?" He looked pale when he saw me, and I knew it. They were having an affair in this house. Out of pure disgust, I instinctively rejected my husband. "Who are you?" I asked John coldly. The woman began to question him, but I interrupted her. "This is my house, and this man is a stranger to me. You are neither my acquaintance nor anything, so please leave. I'll call the police for trespassing." I said this in a harsh tone and drove the woman away. "What are you talking about? The one who should leave is you. Besides, I just submitted the divorce papers to the city hall. This house will belong to my new wife here. It's a present from me, a token of my love." "Did you forget? What are you talking about? The divorce paper you gave me on Christmas, I haven't signed or stamped it. This is document forgery, a crime." "That's an exaggeration to call it a crime." "Well, I was going to submit the divorce papers you gave me on Christmas after the New Year. I wanted to talk about things like property division, but since you already submitted them, I guess we're strangers now. Please leave." I had consulted everyone about John's behavior when I went home at the end of the year, and of course, everyone told me to break up with him as soon as possible. Their words pushed me to the side to submit the divorce papers. I was planning to hire a lawyer after New Year's to discuss things like property division and have John leave once everything was settled. However, seeing this scene of infidelity changed everything. I just couldn't stop sighing at the unbelievable situation. Did you also forget that I took out the loan and built this house in my name because it would be a problem if you forgot to pay the mortgage? Shall I show you the property registry? I had forgotten. Although I had suspected from his comments that John had been lying about owning the house, I was at a loss for words at his forgetfulness about it being in my name. "Wait, didn't you tell me that this house was in your name? And you said you were single. What do you mean you have a wife?" The woman who had changed her clothes in the meantime confronted him. Apparently, he had lied to her that he was single and that the house was in his name. "Well, Dad, I just accidentally forgot." "There's no way you can accidentally forget something like that. What are you going to do about this? I never intended to have an affair. I'm sorry, I just wanted to show off. If saying sorry would settle everything, we wouldn't need the police. I'm breaking up with you today. I hate liars." With that, she turned her back on him. She then turned to me and said, "I truly apologize for this. I had no idea there was a wife. Even though I was ignorant, I made a terrible mistake. I will definitely take responsibility for this. I really am sorry." She was completely different from before, bowing her head deeply to me and handing me her business card. I suppose it's not surprising to be shocked when your boyfriend, who you thought was single, has a wife coming home. "I will contact you again later." With that, I sent her home. "I truly am sorry. It was just a momentary lapse." Do you think such an excuse would work? You've always been forgetful and I've been covering for you. But you constantly caused me trouble and finally betrayed me. I've had enough. John was terrified of the scariest look I had ever given him, clinging to my feet and prostrating himself in apology. As she said earlier, if saying sorry were enough, we wouldn't need the police. I don't need a careless man like you in my life anymore. You probably showed me the divorce papers because you wanted to divorce me, right? That's not it. I thought if I showed you the divorce papers, you would stop nagging me. I thought you wouldn't want to be divorced by me. But you never improved, so I went ahead with it. It's your fault. At John's condescending remark, I finally lost my patience. Don't be ridiculous. Divorce papers are not something to be used as a threat. And I'm sick of taking care of a slob like you. If you understand, get out right now. But I don't want to. That would be a problem. I don't care about your circumstances. Please leave quickly. That would be a problem. Can't we start over? Please reconsider. I ignored John's desperate pleas and forcibly drove him out from the front door. For a while, he cried out, begging, "Please open the door," but eventually he disappeared. Afterward, he apparently went back to his parents' home. But since I had reported our divorce to his parents before him, they knew the reason for our divorce and didn't let him into the house at all. I heard from his parents that they disowned him, saying, "A sloppy man like you is no longer our son." And the woman he cheated with immediately brought cash, saying, "This is for the money to apologize." It seems she was a junior at his workplace and had just been transferred to the same department due to a personnel change. I heard from a rumor that after paying me the property division, John quit his job. The woman consulted with her boss about the matter. It became known around the office and he, feeling uncomfortable, resigned and moved to a distant town. As for me, I put the house, which holds unpleasant memories, on the market and rented an apartment near my workplace. I just couldn't stand living in a house that my husband and his mistress had used. Thankfully, the house sold for more than I bought it for, and I was able to pay off the loan in a lump sum. Now, I'm enjoying living alone in my new apartment, having fulfilling days with my work and interactions with my friends. I intend to continue cherishing these peaceful days in the future.